Alexis Audiobooks presents the unabridged recording of Restraint, His Empire, Book 1, written by Tabitha Black, performed by Marcio Catalano. Chapter 1. Faye couldn't suppress a shiver as the enormous steel gates loomed on the horizon. Despite being brand new and polished to a high shine, they made a starkly ominous contrast to the almost painfully blue sky and clear water the luxury speedboat was currently slicing a path across. Only Simeon Harvey could make a modern private island look this threatening, even in blazing sunshine, she thought. Looks more like a 21st century incarnation of Alcatraz than a private luxury retreat. As the boat drew closer, she half expected to see barbed wire coiled along the tops of the fences. Beside her, George slid his hand into hers, giving it a gentle squeeze. Suddenly overcome with nerves, Faye found herself returning the pressure, despite the fact that she was still furious with her husband. "You've been bugging me to take you on holiday for ages," George said at length. "You could at least pretend to be grateful." "This wasn't the sort of holiday I had in mind," she replied through gritted teeth. "And you know it. I told you that a month ago, and nothing's changed." "I bet you're excited." The ship's skipper appeared, his teeth flashing almost unnaturally white beneath a dark mustache. "You're amongst the first people to see it now it's all finished. And from what I've heard, they're already booked solid for the next 2 months. "We do appreciate how privileged we are," George told him. "Speak for yourself," Faye muttered under her breath, then yelped as her husband increased the strength of his grip on her fingers. "If you have any idea what's good for you, young lady, you're going to drop this attitude right now," he whispered, as soon as the skipper had moved out of earshot. "You're already in a whole heap of trouble, and believe me, you do not want to make it worse for yourself." A tiny flicker of desire leapt through her at his words. It had been a long time, too long, since her husband had used that tone of voice with her. Still, as the boat slowed down and came chugging to a halt at the jetty, Faye couldn't help wondering whether this entire trip was going to be a case of too little too late. They disembarked and stood for a moment, taking in the sheer size and panache of the place. Beyond the gleaming gates, lush emerald green lawns curved around stunning, risque statues of white marble or shimmering metal, dazzling in the sunlight. A wide path led straight up to the ground entrance of an impossibly tall Art Deco building, which looked to be at least 20 stories high. The words "Twisted Tower" were written in elegant black calligraphy above the main doors. "If you'd like to follow me," someone said, "Sir is expecting you." Faye barely paid any attention to the young woman as they followed her up the path and into the lobby of the Twisted Tower building. It was all so grand, and aside from the naughty figurines in the gardens, there was no hint of what she knew the entire island had been reserved for. The foyer was classy and clean, with a row of lifts along the far wall and a reception area to the left of the entrance. "Sir Simeon's on the top floor," the young woman said, once they'd entered one of the 3 elevators. After typing a code into the panel with brisk efficiency, she hurried back outside. Faye turned excitedly to George. "Can you believe this place? It's amazing." Pulling her towards him, he kissed the top of her head. "Certainly grander than I imagined." She lowered her voice, as if she could be overheard. "I suddenly feel strangely shy at the thought of seeing him again. It's been ages." But before George could respond, the lift doors whooshed open to reveal their old friend, with a wide, smug grin on his handsome face. "My dear boy, you are looking wonderful. And as for you, sweet girl," Simeon drew Faye towards him and kissed her full on the mouth. "You look as stunning as ever, despite that scowl on your face." Holding her at arm's length, he smiled broadly. "Not to worry. We'll soon soften you up again." "I'm not a pat of butter," she spat, trying desperately to hide how nervous she was. Simeon Harvey was one of the most charismatic men she'd ever met. Even at his most light-hearted and jovial, he exuded a natural dominance, an alpha quality she couldn't quite put her finger on, but which never failed to reduce her to a quivering little puddle of submissive goo. Standing at just over 6 feet, he had broad shoulders and, even though he was in his early 50s, he still had an enviably muscular build. He'd spent some time in the Special Forces in his youth, and had remained particular about his own fitness. With his graying hair shaved close to his scalp, his twinkling eyes, rugged, tanned, handsome, smiling face, and casual white shirt unbuttoned at the neck, he looked almost deceptively